Ever heard of a scientific genius practically erased from history?
Yeah, it's more common than you think, sadly.
Well, today we're going to make sure one remarkable physicist gets her due, Lise Meitner.
Ah, Lise Meitner. Now there's a story.
Talk about a woman who made waves. Her work basically split the atom.
It's mind-boggling how someone who made such a huge discovery could fade into the background like that.
It really is. We've got a ton of material to dive into, biographies, scientific papers, even some declassified government records.
Sounds intriguing. What's the mission for today's deep dive?
To understand not just the science behind nuclear fission, which is fascinating in itself, but also the woman who cracked the code.
And maybe uncover why she's been called the forgotten genius of nuclear fission.
Absolutely. So imagine Vienna in 1878. Lise Meitner is born, and get this, into a Jewish family that supports her education, even champions it.
Pretty unusual for the time, wasn't it?
Totally. Women in Austria-Hungary were barred from public universities back then.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about that. Her family hired private tutors so she could study.
Exactly. That's dedication. Also, so she could enroll at the University of Vienna when they finally let women in.
And she didn't just enroll, she soared, earning her doctorate in physics in 1906, one of the first women to do so at the university.
Talk about breaking barriers. And then she decides, Berlin, that's the place to be. The hub of scientific advancement at the time.
Yeah, that's where she met Otto Hahn, a chemist. Their partnership changed everything.
It really did. Together they launched into the world of radioactivity.
A powerhouse duo, Meitner with her physics expertise, and Hahn, the chemistry whiz.
But even in Berlin, being a woman, and a Jewish woman at that, she faced roadblocks.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Despite her credentials, she was stuck in a basement lab. Can you imagine?
Wow, the blatant sexism is just... It's hard to comprehend looking back now. But hold on, Meitner. She doesn't back down.
Not for a second. She ends up with a permanent position at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. A big deal back then.
And wait, there's more, right?
Oh, yeah. She became the first woman in Germany to hold a full professorship in physics.
At the University of Berlin, no less. What a trailblazer. So now we're in the 1930s, a time of, well, scientific frenzy, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Everyone's trying to unlock the secrets of the atom.
Trying to create elements heavier than uranium, to tap into that incredible energy within.
And Meitner and Hahn, they're right there on the front lines of this research.
A truly exhilarating time for science, but also a time of rising shadows, politically speaking.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The Nazi regime is gaining power, and for Lise Meitner, this means danger.
Being Jewish suddenly became a matter of life and death.
Absolutely. And in 1938, she's forced to flee Germany, leaving behind her whole life, her work, everything.
A devastating turn of events. But, and this is remarkable, her scientific journey doesn't end there.
It's like something out of a movie. Even from Sweden, where she ends up, she's still collaborating with Hahn.
Exchanging letters, discussing their research, and then, boom, Hahn sends her some results from his experiments with uranium. And these results, well, they're confusing, to say the least.
This is where the story takes a turn, right? Where the forgotten genius part really comes into play.
Exactly. Hahn did the experiments, but it's Meitner who truly understands what's going on.
So what was it that she saw that others missed?
Well, imagine trying to crack open a walnut, but instead of a nutcracker, you're using this tiny particle, a neutron.
Okay, I'm picturing it, kind of.
So Hahn, he's bombarding uranium with these neutrons, and what he's finding is the uranium isn't breaking apart in the way everyone expected.
So something unexpected is happening.
Totally unexpected. It seems like it's splitting, like actually splitting in two.
Wait, splitting? Like the atom itself is dividing?
Exactly, and this is where it gets really crazy. No one had ever seen anything like this before.
So this is way beyond just chipping away at the atom. We're talking a fundamental break.
You got it. And Meitner, working with her nephew, Otto Frisch, they're the ones who figured out what was going on.
They realized that the uranium isn't just breaking apart, it's splitting. And in the process, it's releasing this massive amount of energy.
A completely new phenomenon. They called it nuclear fission.
Catchy name.
Yeah.
So not only is this a huge discovery about how atoms work, it's also, well, kind of terrifying, right?
Oh, yeah, the implications are enormous. Meitner even calculated the energy released during fission, and the numbers were, well, staggering.
I bet. Orders of magnitude greater than anything they'd seen before.
Exactly. It's a game changer. This isn't just some theoretical physics problem anymore. This is something that could change the world.
And remember, all of this is happening as World War II is breaking out. Talk about timing.
Yeah, the world is in chaos, and here's this discovery that could reshape everything. It's a lot to process.
No kidding. And this is where the story takes an even more frustrating turn. Despite Meitner's role in understanding fission, she's left out of the Nobel Prize.
It's a huge injustice. In 1944, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry goes to Otto Hahn. Just Hahn.
Wow. Talk about adding insult to injury.
Yeah.
Here she is, forced to flee her home, facing incredible hardship, and then to have her work basically stolen like that.
It's awful, and it really raises some tough questions about how we acknowledge scientific contributions, especially from women.
For sure. I mean, was this just an oversight by the Nobel Committee?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it something more? Was it because she was a woman, a Jewish refugee?
Those are questions historians are still debating today. Was it simple bias? Or the difficulty of untangling individual contributions in a collaboration? It's complicated.
It is, but the fact remains, Meitner was crucial to understanding fission, and the Nobel Prize snub is a glaring reminder of how often women in science have been sidelined. You know, it makes you think about how history is written. It's often the victors who get to tell the story.
And so often those victors, well, they've been men.
Exactly. But as we dig deeper, we have this responsibility to uncover the whole story, to give credit where it's due, to recognize everyone who shaped our understanding of the world, not just the loudest voices.
Absolutely. And to remember that scientific progress, it's rarely a solo act.
It's about collaboration, sharing ideas, challenging assumptions.
And in Meitner's case, it's crystal clear that her partnership with Hahn, it was essential. They brought different strengths to the table, her physics background, his chemistry expertise, it all fit together.
Like a perfect puzzle. But let's not forget, Meitner's contributions went beyond just interpreting data.
Oh yeah, she had this deep, deep understanding of nuclear physics.
She was key to developing the whole theoretical framework for understanding how fission works.
And it's that understanding that leads to the realization that fission could unleash this massive amount of energy, and then all these possibilities and dangers open up.
Speaking of dangers, we can't forget about the Manhattan Project, the U.S. effort to build an atomic bomb.
And Meitner, she was approached to participate. Imagine that.
I can't even imagine what must have been going through her mind. Here she is, having seen firsthand the horrors of Nazi Germany.
And what does she do? She refuses. Flat out. Says she wants nothing to do with building a weapon of mass destruction.
Wow, I mean, it would have been easy to justify helping, right? To say it was necessary to defeat the Nazis.
Easy. And maybe even expected. But she draws a line in the sand. She's a scientist, yes, but she's also a human being with a conscience. She understood the ethical implications of her work.
And that, to me, is one of the most inspiring parts of her story.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't just make a groundbreaking discovery, she grappled with its consequences. She took responsibility.
It makes you think, what if more scientists followed her lead? What if they weren't just chasing knowledge, but also thinking about the impact, the potential downsides of their discoveries?
A world where ethics and science go hand in hand. Now, that's something to ponder. So, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, let's keep that question in mind. How do we honor Meitner's legacy? It's not just about remembering her scientific achievements, it's about recognizing her commitment to doing the right thing, even when it's hard. You know, it's kind of amazing when you think about it. This woman had to flee her homeland, she left everything behind, had to start over in a new country, but she never loses that spark, that passion for science.
It really shows how much science meant to her. It wasn't just a job, it was something more, something that kept her going through all the hardship.
And I think it's interesting that even though she had to leave Germany, moving to Sweden actually opened up new possibilities. She got to work with some other brilliant minds there.
Oh yeah, like Niels Bohr. She didn't let being forced out of her lab stop her. She just found new collaborations, kept pushing forward.
She was incredibly resilient, always adapting. It kind of reminds you that sometimes even bad experiences can lead to unexpected opportunities.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you look at the big picture, her work on fission, it had these huge ripple effects way beyond science.
It's like she started a chain reaction.
Yeah, it sparked a whole technological revolution that we're still living in today. Think about it. Nuclear energy, that all goes back to her discovery.
Of course, nuclear energy is a whole other debate, but it's definitely a way to generate a lot of power.
And on the flip side, there's nuclear weapons. Meitner's discovery kind of ushered in the atomic age. We have all this incredible technology, but also this constant threat of, well, you know.
Total destruction. It's a complicated legacy. It really shows you how much responsibility comes with scientific breakthroughs.
And her refusal to work on the Manhattan Project, I think that says a lot about her character. She was willing to give up potential recognition maybe even slow down scientific progress because she knew the stakes were just too high.
She had the strong moral compass. Makes you wonder, would the world be a different place if more scientists were like that?
Thinking about the ethical side of things, I mean. It's a good question to ask ourselves, I think, especially now, with technology changing so fast. What are the limits? What are the lines we shouldn't cross?
Her story also makes you think about how we tell the history of science. It's so easy to overlook contributions, especially from women.
Yeah, Meitner getting snubbed by the Nobel Committee, that's not an isolated incident.
There are so many brilliant women whose work has been minimized or even just straight up stolen.
It's a reminder that we have to keep fighting for equality in science. We need to make sure everyone gets the credit they deserve and that everyone has the opportunity to contribute. Diversity is what drives innovation.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And Lise Meitner's story is just a powerful example of that. She never gave up, never compromised her values. She's a real inspiration.
I think her legacy goes beyond just the textbooks. It's about remembering that one person can make a difference, even in the face of incredible challenges.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's take those lessons with us. The importance of perseverance, collaboration, standing up for what you believe in, and the belief that knowledge really can change the world.
And maybe, just maybe, by remembering those who were forgotten, we can make sure it changes for the better. So keep asking questions, keep digging deeper. You never know what you might discover.